Welcome back to another episode of Colony Drop, a Gundam podcast. My name is Brian.
And my name is Isaac. This is your favorite Gundam podcast where we talk about anything and everything that's related to Gundam, from Gunpla to series, movies, the music, the lore, our own concepts, and anything and everything else that has to do with the Gundam metaverse.
That's right, Isaac. And today we're back for more pain. Isaac, we're coming back.
Oh, boy.
We're going to discuss the second half, the back half of Gundam Seed Destiny.
Oh, boy. This series. Listeners, if you're a fan of Gundam Seed Destiny, not Seed, not the Seed Universe, Seed Destiny, please comment below, because you must be a rare breed indeed. Man. The series started out so hopeful, Brian, with so much energy and a good pace, and then it just crashed and burned.
Yeah, I think we're going to see more of that crash and burn here in the back half. I feel like we were on a constant decline from about episode 25 or so, or maybe episode 20, a little before what we left off last time, Isaac. Is that kind of what you felt? I mean, I agree. I thought we started off real well. I thought we were, like I think I said last time, we were on like a 9 out of 10 pace for the first 15 episodes, and then something happened.
Yeah, we've fallen very far and very hard, and then we came to a sudden stop.
What do they say when you get off the Matterhorn? Terminate ser sentados por.
Something like that. I don't remember, but man, it's as if we crashed, not necessarily stopped.
All right, well, if you want to hear all the particulars, go listen to part 1. Year it came out, all that good stuff. We're going to jump right into it, Isaac.
Let's do it. Where did we leave off? What was happening while we left off? Was it the wedding rescue? I think that was it, right?
It was a little after the wedding rescue.
Okay.
Shin had just cut open the Gaia's cockpit and revealed that Stella was in there, and everyone was freaking out. So Shin opens the cockpit, he finds Stella in there, he takes Stella back to the Minerva, and he's like, oh man, we need to get this girl some help, she's not doing well. Because Neo now lost Stella, Isaac, he decides to erase Stella from the minds of the Extended. Because I guess you can just do that in those glowing orbs. That's convenient.
Yeah, that's also the answer, right? When someone of the squad's gone, just delete them.
Nah, we don't need them anymore. It'll just be a problem. So Lacus goes to the plants to help, I guess, kind of sort things out up there, get her ship back, and she's escorted by Waltfeld. She does it in kind of a funny way, Isaac. Do you remember that? She fakes being the fake Lacus, and she makes it through.
Big reversal. And
then soon it comes out that Talia was the one that had Luna spy on Athrun, in his meeting with the Archangel crew. And here's one of my big important points that I want to talk about tonight, Isaac, is that Luna was there. She was overhearing Athrun talk to Kira, Kigali, and Lacus. But she does not tell Talia, or anyone, Durandal, about the fake Lacus, meaning she saw the real Lacus, and she overheard Kira tell Athrun that assassins were sent to take out the real Lacus. So this is her unplayed card of knowledge, Isaac, which I thought was probably the best thing that they had going in terms of setup for later.
Yeah, it might be the only good intrigue, right, that's kind of going on in the background, the only sort of sneaky happenings, because everything in the Earth Alliance is they're all on the same page. Right. Everything in Zap, they're all on the same page, except for this whole Lacus fake doppelganger.
Yes. We're going to hold on to that, and hopefully it'll pay off later. Spoilers, it's not going to. But that's what you're led to believe. So then Orb and Neo Roanoke team up again to take on the Minerva. Kira and the Archangel decide to interfere again. This time Kira cuts all the limbs off the Chaos Gundam easily, which leads you to wonder, why didn't anyone do that before? What is Kira doing that's so special? Or his beam saber is just that much sharper or something? Did it bother you how quickly he dispatched not only the Chaos, but then Athrun shortly thereafter? He just cuts basically all the limbs off of Athrun's Savior Gundam. Terrible showing for Athrun.
Yeah, and it also really goes against their whole fragility, because each time we see mobile suits take pretty light damage to any part of them, the whole thing combusts, right? So you really have to kind of roll your eyes and say, of course, it's the second coming of Kira Yamato. Of course this is going to happen.
Yeah, he gets it all. He gets everyone in one swipe. So his skills have not dulled. But at this point, Kigali goes ahead and asks, she's like, hey, Orb, could you stop attacking? Please listen to me. I'm Kigali, you Latha, blah, blah, blah. They don't listen again, Isaac. They say they're doing it for Orb. This is our orders, whatever. Shin ends up tearing apart their whole naval fleet with the sword impulse. He just gets on one ship after another, just kind of rips his sword through, kind of like Amuro from the first Gundam. But then again, Isaac, Orb does a dumb move here. The Orb captain that you kind of start to like over the last, 5-10 episodes or so, he goes down with his ship. He orders everyone off and tells them, like, hey, you should, if you want to keep fighting, go to the Archangel. But I'm going to stay here. Why does he do that? He doesn't have to do that. He could just put the shifter in gear and have it just go forward. He doesn't need to be on the bridge. What is he doing?
Yeah, he's also a really good captain, so like he would have been valuable, right?
Absolutely.
But they had to do it so that Shin could kill the captain that helped him back when his family was killed and back when he was looking for direction. You know, because that was the same captain that told him go to Zaft.
Absolutely, but that's manufactured drama. That's not logical. That's not good drama.
No, it's also like, is needlessly tragic the word? Like, it
absolutely.
Almost would have been better if that guy met Shin later and like gave him further guidance. It was like, oh, Shin, you have to, obligatory Gundam speech, right? Oh, Shin, you have to like follow your heart, and clearly Zaft isn't on the side that your heart is on, so listen to your heart, Shin. Listen to your heart. And Shin would be like, wow, you're really right, Mr. Captain, to say it be.
I don't know if we ever even learned that guy's name, but he was really cool. I enjoyed him. I agree.
Captain McSacrifice, that's his name.
Yeah, he really pulled a Lord Azumi.
Oh man. Yeah, Orb culture must love sacrificing yourself.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Anyway, he didn't need to die. So then Durandal, we find out, used to be romantically involved with Talia, but she left him because she wanted a child, which Talia eventually did get, and this is going to come back as probably my number one cardinal sin of this series. That was during like a recap episode, I think we learned that. By the way, Isaac, did it seem like there were a lot of recap episodes in this show? I felt like there was too many.
Yeah, and it was done kind of weird too, right? Like it just happened, you know. And it must have been a time thing, as opposed to, I think the recap in Gundam Seed was a court trial, from what I remember.
Yep, that's
right. I think it was Nataro, like kind of recounting what happened, and Ramius was there too. But yeah,
there was like at least 2, maybe 3 recaps, even in the HD remaster, which eliminated the recap. I don't know. I was not a fan of those. Those are real momentum killers, but. At this point, Shin's getting a bit arrogant now because Atherin got taken out. He's like, you're not so great. I'm pretty good because I took out the fleet. But it takes a little bit of a turn for Shin here, Isaac, because he overhears Talia talking that Zaft wants a living extended. So Talia wants to try her best to keep Stella alive because she is not doing well. It turns out that she basically can't be kept alive unless she has access to this Earth Alliance stuff periodically.
Yeah, the mind wash egg.
The mind wash, yes. Whatever that egg does, apparently it's pretty important. Maybe it just gives her a big dose of melatonin.
There you go. Yeah, it's it's a big melatonin egg. Okay.
So he decides to take matters into his own hand. Him and Ray, they bust Stella out of the medical bay, and he flies her back to Neo. And he makes Neo promise him that she will never fight again. So what happens, Isaac? Neo immediately makes her fight again by putting her into a new Gundam called the Destroy, which was given to him by Djibril.
Djibril, that's his rap handle.
Lil Djibril.
Yeah, that's his SoundCloud. when he's not planning atrocities.
Did you notice, by the way, Isaac, that when his name pops up on the computer screens, it actually says Lord Djibril? Like, I don't know why Lord is necessary.
Well, they really want to address him,
I guess.
His proper rank.
How would you describe the Destroy Gundam? Because I know it's one of your favorites.
Oh, man. It's just like this massive monster. It's very dark, right? It's kind of a black Gundam. Its legs are Tyrannosaurus-like.
That's actually really accurate.
Yeah, and its lower body actually rotates when it goes into sort of, I guess it's called destroy mode, and they become sort of the, actual Tyrannosaurus ankled and positioned where, I forgot what it's called, but it's got a sort of backwards knee.
Yeah.
And, it kind of does that positioning where it's kind of, perched backwards. But this big circular backpack filled with bee weapons on its back kind of lowers over its head, and it looks like this giant sinister disc atop 2 Tyrannosaurus legs, and it's got these 2 massive mega particle cannon things, and it's just really destructive, really powerful. It's massive. Also, it's like the size of a building, and it was designed to destroy cities. It's great.
Yeah, so Djibril's plan here is to basically use the Destroy to destroy all Zaft territory on Earth until they just give up and leave. And The first showing of the Destroy, Isaac, is very impressive. It's just plowing through cities. I think it takes out, 3 cities? And I don't know, it's just like this harbinger of doom, right? Like, it's like unstoppable. If you had to compare it to other mobile armors we've seen, it's kind of like a big Zom crossed with a Psycho Gundam, sort of.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. They had an unholy child.
So obviously, Durandal can't stand for this, so he needs to use Shin to get the Destroy. So he forgives him for giving back Stella, and like that kind of just resolves that little plot thread. And so now everyone's like, oh, this is this is bad. Let's all go destroy the Destroy. So the Minerva goes, the Archangel goes, and they have a little fight. Shin slices open the cockpit again, and Neo reveals that Stella is in there. So he's like, Shin, don't do it. Please stop. Stella's in there. You don't want to destroy that. And they talk it out for a while, Isaac, but, spoilers, of course. She eventually goes crazy again. I think she's triggered by seeing the freedom kind of in her peripheral vision, if I remember right. That sort of sets her off again and undoes all the progress that Shin has made. And so Kira ends up having to put her down by, depositing his beam sabers in the, beam chest cannons, which blows the whole thing up. And at the same time, Neo is shot down and loses his mask and is found by the Archangel. So here's what I don't get, Isaac, is the Destroy kind of, was blown up here. But Stella's still in one piece.
Yeah.
With an open cockpit, by the way.
Right.
Does that make sense to you?
No, because plot logic has to allow for her to live.
Right.
Even though it seemed to have been a blow that should have destroyed the mobile suit, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And later on, we'll see similar blows can very easily destroy the Destroy Gundam.
Yeah, this was the first showing of the Destroy, which was impressive. The later showings of the Destroy are not quite as impressive.
Yeah. Something was lost when they mass manufactured it.
So Shin takes Stella's body, who, like I said, is somehow still in one piece, and buries her at sea, even though isn't she going to float, Isaac? Doesn't he need to weigh her down?
I suppose. Well, no, because, won't her lung cavity fill with seawater and then she'll die? I mean, well, then she'll sink, right?
I don't know. Someone, a medical student out there, can you answer that for us?
Yeah. Our big coroner listeners, they'll be able to tell us exactly what will happen when a body goes into the ocean.
So Shin buries her, and then he studies the Freedom with Rey with the intent to destroy it. And Rey is starting to become a little bit of Durandal's manipulator in the wings with Shin, right? He's kind of pushing Shin in a particular direction. Always believe the chairman. Do whatever the chairman says. Whatever he says is correct. Don't believe anyone else. Let's destroy the Freedom. You can do it. That kind of thing. We'll get to Rey a little bit more later, but did you see that? Is that how you saw Rey at this point as well?
Yeah, he's very much a company man. Isn't really the right way to say it, but you get my drift. Yeah. He's ride or die team Durandal. Right. Chairman Durandal can do no wrong as far as Rey is concerned. Whatever he decides, whatever he says, that must be the way to do it. We have to do this for Zaft. Zaft and Durandal are the same thing.
And at this point, Neo wakes up in the Archangel, but he doesn't have his Mu Laflaga memories, which then creates this sort of confusing 15-episode stay in the brig. Did you notice that? They found him, but he was just there from episode 26 through 40, mid-40s, just still in the brig, just chilling. Every now and whenever someone went into the brig or into the medical bay, I guess maybe it's the medical bay, Neo was always in there.
Yeah, I mean, also, I noticed his cell had very bizarre bars. But yes, he's in a position where he can have dialogue and conversations very easily with anybody nearby, even though he's in a jail.
But, if there's ever a sign that the writers don't know what to do with the character, it's when they stay in the medical bay for, 15 episodes.
Yeah, they never, decide to leave him at a Zaft base or begin some type of, I don't know, criminal proceedings since he's part of the enemy. But they just keep him aboard.
Oh. So Minerva and Zaft then fight the Archangel again, which is also a recurring problem with this series, Isaac. Did you feel this way as well? So, for example, there were probably 3 or 4 battles here between Zaft and Orb where the Archangel interfered, and then they fought the Destroy, and then they all went back, and then they fought again, and then maybe they fought before that, and then they retreated. They should have just done it all at once. We don't need to have 3 battles that are the same. Whenever you end with both sides just kind of retreating, I feel like nothing was resolved.
Yeah, and also nothing happened in the battles that was decisive enough to really change anything.
Correct.
The ships got superficial damage. Nobody died.
Right.
And they just kind of continued on, sort of increasingly more confused as they fought.
Yes.
Obviously reaching the point where they will eventually be on the same side.
So the Minerva and Zaft forces, they fight the Archangel again. This time Zaft's orders from, I assume, Durandal are to let the Impulse finish off the Archangel, which is another sign of him trying to sort of manipulate Shin's ego, stoke him, get him fired up, make him this sort of war hero ace type thing. So Shin eventually does engage with Kira. Shin uses all 3 impulse packs and eventually impales the Freedom on the Excalibur sword. And here's, I think, what you're talking about, Isaac, which creates this enormous explosion, implying that, the Freedom's nuclear reactor has blown up, which neither of them should have survived then, right? Because he was, the impulse was heavily damaged, and he was right next to the explosion when it happened because, he plunged the sword into the chest of the Freedom.
Right.
And you have to walk away with that being like, well, there's no way they could be alive from that. They were at ground zero of that explosion. I don't care how much metal you're behind, Isaac, when that happens. You're gone, right?
Of course. Just like Mulaflaga died.
Fair.
Right, Brian?
Yes. But that's my point. So this is the second time now in this sequel series where, or third if you count Mu surviving, that you're sort of like losing your audience's trust. Like, now I can't really trust what you're showing me, right? If you're just going to undo it. And they literally undo this in the next episode. Like, if you're just watching the episodes back to back, within 5 minutes, that this is, it's been undone, because we find out immediately at the start of the next episode that Kira supposedly turned off the reactor and survived. So if he turned off the reactor, Isaac, I'm not sure what blew up then.
Yeah, like I can't even generate headcanon to do that. Energy stored within the system while the reactor was off?
But I mean that. How does he live then?
Localized energy capacitors.
Ridiculous.
In the limbs.
Ridiculous is what it is.
The gymnastics we have to do to continue with certain Gundam events.
You cannot get a high enough gymnastics score to justify that.
No, I know. There had to be like a platinum medal.
Right. Yes.
Continue.
So the Minerva fight also gets a Tannhauser shot off on the Archangel, but they escape into the water. They ditch an engine to pretend that they blew up, which was cool. I like that. I thought that was good.
Sure.
So then Durandal immediately gives Shin and Atherin new Gundams. He's like, hey, it sucks that yours are all, blown up, but I still need you guys, so here's some new ones. Here's the Destiny Gundam for you, Shin, and here's the Legend for you, Atherin, a.k.a. the Providence 2.0. So, Isaac, when you saw the Legend, you're a big Providence fan.
Right.
How does the Legend rank for you with the Providence? Is it just as good? Is it better? Is it worse?
It's worse, and let me explain why. The Providence, say what you will about it if you're not a fan or whatever, what really sealed it, even though it's sort of a sinister-looking Gundam with normal Gundam colors, except for a little bit more gray, it had a pure circle on its back. Mm-hmm. So it was a solid, unbroken circle, and almost a funnel pointing in each direction, or bit, whatever they're called in this universe.
They are called the Dragoons. How dare you?
Dragoons, of course. Of course they are, Brian. Dragoons. All right. It had a Dragoon pointing in each, nautical direction, really. This Legend Gundam, it's got a half circle instead of the full circle. It sort of lacks the normal Gundam colors anyways. They're not all there on its chest, for example, or its head. Mm-hmm. And it seemingly has less Dragoons. So overall, it very much seems like a mass-produced Providence, which I assume it kind of is.
Yeah, it definitely looks like a more refined Providence. And by refined, I mean, remember when the Rigazi came out and Charge counterattacked? And and everyone was like, oh yeah, the Rigazi, it's a refined Gundam Zeta, but like it looks like a bootleg Zeta. That's kind of what the Legend looks like for the Providence, right?
It's almost like they took the original and they said, gee, I wonder what a prototype would look like. And then they made a prototype and it's kind of like worse, but like, why did they make it,
Yeah. And now that's not to say that it's a terrible looking suit, but relative to the Providence, I don't think it looks quite as imposing. And maybe your opinion would be different if the Providence did not exist, right?
I might have a different opinion about it, but the Providence is just a better looking suit, better colors, better design. It's better in every way, even its pilot and how it was used in the story, especially compared to the Legend.
If anything, the Legend is less thick than the Providence. So if you're listeners, if you're looking for a theme there. Isaac loves his thick suits, so.
Yeah. Speaking of thick suits, oh my God, the Doms are here.
Is this when the Doms come? I can't remember.
I think, yeah, they come out of nowhere, remember? Supporting Lacus, right?
They do,
right?
Yeah.
They just show up. There's almost no explanation. There might be like one sense. Oh, by the way, we got some support units.
Yeah, there's so Lacus manufactures 3 Doms. She has her own Black TriStar team.
Yeah.
Out of the Zaku, Goof, Dom, are they the most rip-off of the original? They basically look like a normal Dom. Like, if you had put that in a UC story in, I don't know, the mid-UC 80s, I would believe that it was a UC design.
Yeah, I would absolutely say that they're have no change to my knowledge. I'm trying to think. Well, okay, I'll say this: no physical change.
They're a little rounder, maybe.
Maybe in some areas. Oh, well, I think the shoulder pads are more larger, but I will say they definitely have a different set of abilities. They have those beam shields.
Yeah.
So that's probably their biggest difference. Other than that, they're nearly identical.
How angry were you when the Doms showed up, Isaac?
I was first surprised, kind of happy to see them, and then I got angry because I realized that they've taken something that was great and they've brought it here to see Destiny where things are not great. So, it's I don't know. It's like hearing about your favorite food, like your favorite snack was taken to a garbage dump. At that point you're kind of like, well, you just wasted it. It didn't need to go over there. It should have gone to me. It didn't need to go over there. And
can you bring yourself joy with the idea that maybe someone saw those and they were like, oh, let me look up the Dom, and then they found all the original Doms, and then they became a fan of those Doms?
Only slightly, but at the same time, no, because if this is their first encounter, they liked it, they're probably going to rank this one higher, just like how I encountered the Dom Tropin first. Fair. And I like that Dom the most out of all the Dom series.
Yeah, that's fair. This is an example of fan service backfiring, right? Yeah,
pretty much. And it's this whole series, as far as Zaft is concerned, has been fan service. Say what you will about the Earth Alliance and having somewhat uninspired designs, but at least they have them.
Right.
At least they're trying new things. Zaft, they just Control C for everything in the Universal Century that the Xeon had.
Yeah, the Destroy, I thought that was a great design, or at least it was very original, right?
Yeah, its use was original, its size, and the role in the story.
Yeah.
It was very much a good breath of fresh air, and it really fits, Blue Cosmos / Logos.
Right. So right after revealing these Gundams, Atheron's a little wishy-washy as to whether or not he wants it. Durandal gets a pic of Atheron's meeting with the Archangel crew from Rey, and he decides to arrest him. So now Atheron is going to be public enemy number 1. Rey pursues Atheron. In Atheron's escape, he does steal a goof, and he inadvertently takes Mayrin with him. And so Shin and Rey end up pursuing Atheron in the Destiny and the Legend, and they shoot him down with Mayrin inside. And here's another good example, Isaac, of where the audience can no longer trust what we're seeing, because Shin basically destroys the goof pretty much the same way he destroyed the Freedom. There's a big cockpit explosion, the goof goes down, yet immediately we find out that Atheron and Mayrin are not dead, and they were somehow picked up by an orb ship, and they are already recuperating in the Archangel's medbay. So how many times does this have to happen, Isaac, before you start to feel a little... There's no real sense of danger.
It's already happened.
Yeah.
Technically it happened with Mu.
That's true.
Right? Yeah. Because we know he vaporized, and then they bring him back. Not even with animation of an escape pod or anything like that, because we know those don't exist for mobile suits. But that's when it originally happened. That was the Zero event.
Right. So I guess my question to you listeners is, if you are a big fan of Seed Destiny, I want to know, and obviously this main character armor is not working for Isaac and I. It doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, you can like it. I want to know, how do you rationalize it to yourself, or why do you like it, I guess? How do you get through the series without kind of rolling your eyes at this point? Or do you, and you just forgive it?
No, I don't think it can be forgiven, because either they didn't have enough ideas, or they had their little committee meeting and they thought to themselves, these characters are gold, they have to come back, to the detriment of the new characters, because we get so little time with them.
Yeah, and I'm fine with them not killing them. I just think they should do it in a less deceiving way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Are you saying you're okay with Mu coming back? You just prefer it was done differently?
No. Well, Mu I think is sort of unforgivable, because that was between the series. But I'm saying within this series, you blew up Kira's cockpit, you blew up Atheron's cockpit, and they're both surviving. if you don't want to kill them, that's fine, but just don't blow up the cockpit, or find some other way to get rid of their suits without blowing them up in a way that it looks like they're dead, I guess.
Okay. So would you be okay with Mu coming back as long as he's like almost a cyborg, really, or just half the man he used to be? Like he's missing like limbs and like he's all burnt up, kind of.
A cyborg parts would be a nice touch, but I think it's hard to justify him coming back at all, Isaac.
Yeah.
Given that, wasn't he like reduced to dust when that beam like finished firing? Wasn't the strike basically gone?
Apparently not. But yes, there was nothing there. The Lohengrin perfectly dissolved everything there before burning out.
Yeah, I mean, with respect to Mu, look, there's that one point, I forget, I think it's episode 33. He's in the medical bay, wakes up, and makes a joke. And Ramius, she cries, runs away, and Mu asks if he's supposed to know them. And someone says, how is this possible? And someone else says, I don't know, but it is. And that's essentially the same line, Isaac, as somehow Palpatine returned.
Yes, that's literally it. We're going to hand wave it away. We don't know how it happened, but it's happening.
Right. And maybe if they had given us an episode dedicated to like how Mu survived, I'd be okay with it.
Oh, that would have been the perfect recap episode.
Anyway, so, now Shin has shot down Athrun and Mayrin. Everyone believes that Athrun and Mayrin are dead. Durandal spins it that Athrun and Mayrin were working for Logos, and, that Logos corrupted them and they're traitors. Now the whole plan, Isaac, is for Azaf to attack Heaven's Base, the headquarters of Logos, which, by the way, Isaac, I find it very hard to believe that if Logos is of such a standing as they say it is, this big international cabal, Illuminati. I mean, is Logos, that's kind of a stand-in for Illuminati, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're like, quote unquote, the elite, and
right.
They run these companies, and they're all connected at their little country club. So yeah, it's very much an elite type secret society that's clearly an enemy.
Do you think that if they are this sophisticated, that they would all be located in one spot?
It seemed like the situation had forced them to. Events forced them to kind of really get together because they were on the run. It would have been a bit more interesting, I suppose, if a few members said, "No, I think I'll take my chances in I don't know, some neutral area of the world or something, or on the run on my own." But they decided to all just go there.
Yeah. Just seems awful convenient that they're almost all in the same spot. I don't think that's very good evil plan of them. So
the ones that survived after Durandal outed Logos' existence and the whole world turned against them.
Yes. And Isaac, so here comes Cardinal Sin number 2. Luna blames Logos for corrupting Athrun and Mayrin. And now all of a sudden she gets with Shin for no reason. They kiss and they're now a couple. I mean, good grief, okay? It didn't make sense for her to be with Shin before he shot down Mayrin. And now it makes even less sense for her to be with Shin after shooting down Mayrin. She spent the first half of the show talking about how Shin is basically an ass. And she even said that she wanted Athrun to put him in his place so that he stops being so full of himself. And now all of a sudden she loves him.
Yeah, it's just bad writing. I can't chalk it up to anything else.
It's terrible. I am convinced, Isaac, Luna and Mayrin's fates were originally switched. I think it would have made more sense if you look at the first half of the show that Luna was meant to escape with Athrun and Mayrin was supposed to end up with Shin. At some point, they switched it. And it doesn't make sense because Luna, this is going back to the fake Lacus knowledge, she never plays that card, Isaac. She never plays it.
Yeah, that's true.
At any time before the fake Lacus is revealed, she could have just told Shin about it, and the plot would have unfolded differently. And she just either seemingly forgot about this, because if she reveals it, or acknowledges that she knows it, it makes all of her decisions about continuing to follow Durandal not make sense.
See, this is why this series is so puzzling. Because it seemed like, we zigged when we were going to zag. And I don't mean that in a good way, like, oh, what a twist. I mean, like, well, it almost seems like we were, the writing and the plot just turned on a dime,
Yes.
Like they got a new writing team or something.
I believe there's a lot of interviews out there talking about, why the show went a certain way. I've not read them, and I don't think Isaac has either. This is just our unfiltered opinion at this point. Maybe we'll go back and read them one day, but I'm not sure that's going to happen. So
yeah.
If I'm wrong in this, someone please let me know. But that's what it seems like to me. It seems like Luna was being set up to, be on the side of Athrun. She had a crush on him. It would make way more sense for her to have left with Athrun than Mayrin. And Mayrin was sort of being set up as the person who didn't care as much as Luna. Remember, Mayrin didn't go see Luna when she got hurt. That more aligns with like Shin's view of things. You know, he doesn't care about Athrun, blah blah blah. So anyway. And to go back to your earlier point, Isaac, about the fake Lacus knowledge that Luna had being the biggest intrigue in the show, you're right, but they never used it. So that not only is her getting with Shin, in my opinion, not great, but they didn't even use the one thing that they had going for them. They could have like blown the plot wide open on the Durandal side. How do you not do that?
Because they really wanted a shootout to happen later on with like Durandal goons and then, Lacus goons.
Yeah, my theory is that had she told Shin, it would have forced Shin to leave or at least not ally with Durandal. And then you're left with too little on the Durandal side. Who's he got left? Rey? Rey can't fight Kira, Shin, and Athrun, and Mu, and Kigali.
No, he'd be dead.
Right. So I think they had to exit that. But they already introduced the card of knowledge. It just tells me they didn't think ahead or something changed in a very serious way. So very curious your thoughts on that, listeners. Am I off base here about Luna? I feel like she turned into a different person. I feel like this was a character assassination. This was a character sacrifice of Luna in order to get the plot to move forward.
Yeah, and boy, did it move forward with a bunch of turns and spinning,
did it ever.
spinning twists until we reached the end of this series.
So, like I said, Luna blames Logos for corrupting Athrun and Mayrin. She gets with Shin. Now, Djibril sends out 5 more destroys, Isaac, which are taken out rather handily by Shin and Rey this time. So what did you think about the destroys' fall from grace here? Because before it was like this big threat. It did wonderfully in the first battle, and now Shin and Rey they run through 5 of them with not a whole lot of problem.
Yeah, the destroy pretty much becomes like the ninja. I think it's called like the inverse ninja law. It's the number of ninjas is like correlates to how powerful there are, or how unpowerful they are, I should say. So say, for example, you're playing a video game, and you're like, I don't know, you're a samurai or something. You go into like the room, and guess what? There's one ninja there. Wow, this guy's going to be really powerful, because it's one ninja. As opposed to, you're playing a video game and you go into, a courtyard and there's like 80 ninjas in there. Oh, it's going to be a button masher. You're going to fight you're going to go through these guys like butter.
Oh, man.
Because each one individually is weak.
You're so right. That's perfect.
Yeah, that is exactly what happened with the Destroy. First it came out with a bang, and then once they start flooding the screen with them, flooding the battlefield, they're going to be incompetent.
They went out with a whimper.
It was destroyed.
No, but you're so right about the ninja thing. And is that disappointing?
I think in a way it is. Like, instead of seeing multiple destroys, it kind of would have been more impactful if we saw the destroy again, except they call it perfect destroy. And it was just way more powerful. They fixed the flaws, and it's just, I don't know, it's they one-upped it, and it was able to do a lot more damage or kill certain members of the characters. Yeah,
that makes sense. I mean, maybe they were trying to just make the Destiny and the Legend seem that much better, but I think all it did was make the Destroy seem worse. And yeah, you're right. Maybe they should have upgraded it and just focused on one. This was the fight where Sting, one of the last living extended, he was piloting one of them, but they never revealed who was piloting the other 4, right?
Yeah, just regular grunts,
Yeah, or maybe they could have said that Sting was controlling all 5 of them. Maybe that would have made sense. I don't know.
That would have been interesting. That'd almost take us into remote controlled, kind of a doll situation almost.
Right, yeah. And that could have explained why they did so terrible. Maybe he wasn't able to focus on all 5 or something, but I'm sure all Destroy fans cried out in pain as all 5 were taken out with simple slashes.
Like Yoda, or Obi-Wan just cried out in terror.
By the way, on the Destroy, I'm not really convinced that it actually needs a pilot. Because, it has that sort of, all-range firing thing. Why don't they just put it in the city and just, do that?
Remote order it, program it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have had the same effect, really. But, I don't know. They needed...
I mean, it's not dramatic. I get it, but,
Yeah, but I don't know. That would have not only worked from, combat-wise, but story-wise, too. Because, who's ruthless enough to use machines like that in warfare? Of course, Blue Cosmos. Of course, Logos. So,
like I said, Sting, he's now dead after this battle. After Shin and Rey take them out, the Alliance surrenders. But Isaac Djibril lives to fight another day. He escapes again. And he abandons all the other Logos people who are still at Heaven's Base, and they all get taken into custody. Isaac, do you think Djibril is bad at his job? a little bit. Like, he's constantly frustrated when information about Blue Cosmos or the Alliance gets broadcast. He's always having to, like, abandon bases. Durandal, he eventually broadcasts the destroy fight, and Djibril is, like, shocked. Like, did he not think people were going to find out about this?
Apparently not. Like, he very much seems to be outclassed by Durandal, and I wonder if that's... They clearly want us to see that, I assume, right? Durandal's Mr. Chess, right? And Jibril's been so arrogant, he just kind of pets his cat and plots and thinks he's going to be ahead of everybody, and his plans are always going to work. You know, I'm really surprised more that the Logos guys don't kind of call him out on it more, right? You think they would have done that after the nuke thing didn't work out.
Oh, yeah. Well, they were mad at him, but yeah, they didn't make any effort to really get rid of him, right?
Say what you will about like Romefeller, but like if you mess up once in leadership, like they hand you that ceremonial pistol.
They say, do what needs to be done here.
Yeah, you could instantly lose power in like the space of a conversation at Romefeller. Like maybe Logo should take some notes.
Yeah, Logos was just all complaining with no action. So
yeah, oh Djibril.
So here's where the plot takes a little bit of a weird turn, Isaac. Lacus all of a sudden thinks that Durandal wants to create a new world order. And Waltfeld finds one page of a notebook from a genetic research station at a colony that mentions the Destiny Plan in like red text, and he immediately gives his thoughts on it as if he like knows what the Destiny Plan is. This is our first introduction to the Destiny Plan, which I'm going to get to a little bit later, which is like, I don't know, another cardinal sin of this show. This felt very similar, Isaac, to, you know, Lieutenant Burning finding the notebook. But I feel like in the Lieutenant Burning instance, he died and we like didn't really hear about it. Here, like, they have this notebook that someone left behind, and they're inferring in like a 30-second snip about the entire point of the show. And we're on episode like 35 at this point. I mean, what did you think when you first heard the Destiny Plan?
At first, I knew it wasn't going to be anything good because, you know, the heroes found it and it was kind of a secret. But like later on, when we hear the full explanation, the animated explanation, it was still kind of like, well, that doesn't sound like super sinister, and at the same time it almost sounds stupid as far as like a villainous plot, you know?
Yeah, and if you could even call it an explanation, I mean, there's not much to it really.
Right.
I think there's a lot of things off here, Isaac. So one, it's introduced too late. So I think I think this is in episode 39 when this happens. I think we get more about it in episodes 44 and 47. Now, out of your 50 episode show, if this is the end game, I feel like we need to hear about it sooner, first of all.
They did kind of explain that. Well, not explain it, but like Durandal had to keep the war going to take out Logo since they were really his only threat. And once they were gone, then he can announce this ridiculous genetic career placement plan.
Yeah, he basically just wants to give everyone jobs.
Yeah, your job will be tied to your genetics and what you're good at, that was kept so vague. Like, I wonder why people both were supporting it and against it at the same time, right? Like, there's no really details on how this is actually going to work out.
Right, it was so poorly explained. How would this be enforced? Is it retrospective? Is it prospective? Like, is your job canceled? Do you just get a new one on Monday? The economic impact of this is going to be huge. Like, everyone's going to have to retrain in their jobs. I'm not sure this makes any sense, Isaac.
Yeah, Zaf better have like Zaf better have millions of factories putting out like genetic tests or something like that, and having tutors on standby to interpret these genetic results, because how would you even test for something like that in the population, you know? Like, it's so insane. Like, we can't really even do that, I think, right? Like, nobody does a genetic test and, oh, you should be a weatherman, you know?
Yeah, like if someone said, "Oh, you know what? You turns out you should have been a surgeon." Well, like, guess what? Now I got to go to school for like 15 years.
Yeah, like oh, maybe are you saying the Destiny Plan would have been great, Brian, because like it's going to require like mass amounts of people to just get some student loans and like go back to school, and we're going to have a very educated population at the end of the Destiny Plan.
It'd be a boom for the education system. Yeah, the universities, they'd be raking it in, man. But there's not everyone can't go to school at once though, Isaac. There's so many problems here. That's my point.
It'll be a night school plan. Gundam Seed Night School. That's a sequel.
And then are you required to just accept this new job? Or, like, they don't get to vote on it? Like, they just have to take it? I don't know.
What if the results come back and, like, it's not that many people are, like, cut out to be engineers, but, like, what if we need more engineers? Like, someone should have sat Durandal down and explained, look, people kind of take jobs, like, for the money. I know we like to talk about, like, what you're good at, genetics and stuff, but, like, the world doesn't really work like that. Like, how are we going to reshape the world?
Right. Does Durandal's Destiny plan come with a comprehensive universal basic income plan?
Yeah, Zaf doesn't even work like that. Remember, was it Nicole?
Yeah, he was from Money. Yeah.
He was like a really good pianist, right? He clearly wanted to be a pianist and not enjoy music, create music, and play music instead of being a pilot. But, like, we didn't need a genetic test to tell us that.
Oh, sorry, kid. Says here you need to get your ass in that cockpit and go get killed by the strike Gundam.
A terrible reveal for the big plot that Durandal was behind. I wonder what else they had on the whiteboard, for him to actually be behind. But here we are.
What this strikes me as, Isaac, this is a fine novel sci-fi story, the Destiny plan. But I don't think Gundam is the vehicle for it, let alone in, like, the mid-40s of, like, your 50-episode Gundam show to all of a sudden say that this is what your plan is. It reminds me of the alien reveal in the 00 movie. Like, conversation with alien thing is a fine sci-fi story. I'm just not sure that Gundam is the vehicle for this.
Yeah,
if you did do a show about the Destiny plan, I feel like that's a whole other 50-episode show just about that. I don't see why Gundams are involved at all.
No. It should have almost been included as, like, maybe from the beginning this was something they introduced, and, like, the Earth Alliance's reaction was, oh, heck no, and then even more people became Blue Cosmos fanatics, and that got the ball rolling. But kind of introducing it, and Durandal was, he tapping his fingers together. This is my evil plan. It was like, really? This is your plan? Like, even if governments say yes, it's going to be decades to roll this out.
Right. And the economic upheaval is just, I'm not sure it makes any sense. So
no.
Anyway, back to our battle plot. Kira goes out to space to get Lacus, and he basically gets the Strike Gundam destroyed in the process. The Strike Gundam got destroyed real quick, Isaac. That was weird. He brings back the Strike Freedom, the Infinite Justice, and Lacus with him. She's piloting the Infinite Justice just to get it down there. Shin gets a medal for his efforts at Heaven's Base, and now Luna's like, oh my god, Shin, you're the best. I love you so much. Again, who is this Luna? I don't like it, Isaac.
Man.
Zaft attacks Orb again, Isaac. How many confrontations do we need to have here? So this time, Durandal's logic is that Orb is harboring Djibril. And he's actually right. Yuna's family, they're having, like, tea with Djibril at their house. Not a good look, Isaac. So Zaft is basically like, well, we're going to go in there, we're going to kick your door down, and we're going to take out Djibril. So at this point, Kigali is like, she's going to go out to fight. And Isaac, she's given the Akatsuki, which is this great mobile suit that Orb has had this whole time behind a big door. What did you think when they were just like, nah, don't worry about it. We got this great suit here that your dad left for you. Do you want it? We've had it. Like, why didn't they use it before?
Yeah, right? It's because the writers needed a suit available at that specific moment. Something new to reveal for the final act of the show.
Is that a trope, like a bird out of a hat trope or something? It just appeared.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh, God.
Does it even make sense? Like, her dad can't have left it for her. Her dad died before he would have had all that data, right?
He would have said something, too. He would have said something at their very critical final conversation, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, oh, by the way, I left you this cool thing, and it's in hangar number 12. Don't forget it.
Yeah. Oh, God.
All right, so she takes the Akatsuki, and she goes out, and the Akatsuki, Isaac, I mean, would you agree this is basically like a Hyakushiki analog? It's got the reflective anti-beam coating. It's all gold. Looks pretty cool. It's probably one of my favorite designs in the series. Like, I feel like, though, whereas the Hyakushiki sort of reflected beams, like, it kind of helped you out, the Akatsuki really takes it to a new level where it reflects the beam back in the exact sort of angle that, like, it was fired upon. That's a little silly. But what did you think of the Akatsuki?
I didn't care for it much. It was very generic, almost.
I liked it with the space pack. I thought the space pack version was cool. It has, like, its own dragoons. She's going to pilot in this one battle, and then she's going to end up giving it to Mu. I mean, you could argue, why is the Akatsuki in this show at all? But
because they really wanted They wanted a callback again, right? They control Seed Zeta.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And what I don't like is the Dragoons are good and all. We all know they're funnels, fins, bits, whatever. But like this one has them on the shoulders and the backpack, so it makes this sort of weird. There's too many points.
Too many. I mean, it has less points than the Providence, though. I don't know.
Yeah, but the Province was like a radial design. Like that's kind of pleasing to the eye. This is just like all upper body, all shoulders.
Look, they were trying to maximize the space they were working with.
It was a big cavern.
Did you notice, Isaac? Or I read this on the wiki. I can't recall this, but apparently in the original show, it was just kind of this gold, flat gold color. But in the HD remaster, it was like this golden sheen.
They paid a few animators to like work a little bit longer on it, give it an extra 20 minutes.
They spruced it up.
But don't you think, like, bits aside and all that, and Dragoons aside, which, you know, they're kind of all over the place now, it's kind of generic, right? Shield, rifle, that's it. It's just been rhinestoned in gold.
Besides Dragoons, which I agree it's not, it can't claim that gimmick as its own. It is a fairly normal suit, I suppose.
Yeah, it's very Buster Gundam, except they chromed it up. They goldened it up.
I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was cool. There's no master grade of the Akatsuki.
Hang on. Do you think it's cool because it looks cool on its own, or because you like how much it looks like Hyakushiki?
No, okay, so I like the Hyakushiki more. I have the master grade Hyakushiki. I do think the Akatsuki looks fine on its own, though. I would definitely build one. I don't know that I would
really
buy it per se. Look, I'm not saying, like, I don't love a whole lot of designs from this show, but if I had to rank my designs, which maybe we'll do at the end here, Akatsuki would be like in my top 5 of this show.
Wow, that's kind of surprising. For me personally, it's too generic. You know, it looks like a second-rate Hyakushiki, which had like way more class and interesting design to it. I guess I can kind of understand some of its design. I would almost want to see it next to an Astray, and like then I could kind of nod and say, okay, I see what Orb was doing.
Yeah, I do think it maybe looks too much like the Astray. I give you that.
Yeah.
At this point, after Kagale gets the Akatsuki, she fights Shin for a little bit. She's about to die, and then lo and behold, Isaac, the strike freedom, and Kira appears in the sky, and they, you know, he stops Shin and he saves her. And then I think Shin has to retreat or something, but Kagale eventually barges into the Orb headquarters. She berates Yuna. She takes over command of the battle. That's probably like the best moment of the show for her. Would you agree? Even though her character's kind of been assassinated, like we talked about before, given that she was sort of a wet blanket in the first half. But when she takes over this battle and punches Yuna and stuff, that was good.
Yeah, it was her only redeeming moment, really, because as we remember, Kagale in the last series was a strong, assured leader. And then at this series starts, she's so collared and chained by Yuna's family and how hampered she is in decisions. Here, she was back to form.
Yeah.
It was a very dizzying way that they decided her to come back to the Kagale we knew. But yeah, here she is, finally here to save the day and take command.
Athrun goes out in the Infinite Justice. He's all hurt still, but he goes out anyway. He's bleeding. He goes and helps Kira, because Kira's being double-teamed at this point by Shin and Rei. And then Yuna finally dies, Isaac. Did you like his death? He refuses to go to a shelter, and a goof lands on him.
Yuna was such a problem and a menace, but it felt like such a bizarre death at the same time. You know, I almost wanted him to like join Lord Djibril and then die later on, right, on a ship or something. Yeah,
it was weird. It did seem like they were maybe setting him up for more. I mean, his death was sort of fitting in the sense that he was defeated by his own hubris, but they built him up so much, and then he kind of just died like a pancake. So and then we get a really funny moment here, Isaac. This is like a recurring thing that people do in this show. They just decide to hold like a world broadcast.
Yeah, the Laz is
yeah, the Laz strategy.
Yeah, the Laz is clearly doing like their IT or something, because they can break into any feed.
Yeah, but except it's like more complicated than that, because she decides to broadcast to the whole world to clear everything up. She's about to talk about Logos and all this stuff, but then like her feed is interrupted by Mir Campbell masquerading as Lacus and giving a speech about how Orb is bad because they're harboring Logos. But then Mir's broadcast is interrupted again by the real Lacouse, who's now standing with Kigali. And did you notice that, like, for a while they were picture in picture? And so for listeners who maybe are too young for this, picture in picture used to be a thing where, like, I don't know, in like the late 90s, that was a big thing on TVs. Isaac, remember, they were like, you can watch two things at once, and there would be like a little picture in the corner of your screen that has your other channel, and then like channel number 2 being like in the big screen. Anyway, they were picture in picture for a while, Isaac, which means that, like, whoever's controlling these broadcasts is like working with each other. Like, this doesn't make any sense. How can they keep competing with broadcasts? That's not how technology works.
Yeah, I don't know. It just, what I liked was how Mir gets more crushed like every second. You know, she seems so lost and confused as Lacouse just does what she does best and just runs all over her with her words.
What do you think about Mir in general?
Clearly a victim.
Yeah. What do you think about her as a character? And then also, what do you think about her just as a plot? Like, as a plot, as a fake Lacouse, I think I'm fine with that. It's a little silly, but I think it sort of worked out. And then as a character, is she tragic?
I would say, yeah, she's tragic because at first she seemed like very competent and understanding of her role. Mm-hmm. And then as time went on, her mind just got so warped and she thought she was a real Lacouse. And then it's clear that Durandal's kind of really manipulating her with her little handler. I wish kind of more was done with it, actually. Since it was there, I wish they did more with it.
Yeah, I agree. I would definitely say she's a victim and pretty tragic at the end. It is a little weird how she kept flipping between, like, I am the real Lacouse, to then at the end being like, please remember me for who I was. And I was like, well, that's not what you said 5 minutes ago. But a pretty sad story all around for her, I think.
Yeah, but, I mean, she's got to go down. We can only have one.
There can only be one Lacouse. So after this weird competing broadcast, Isaac, we sort of enter the super weapon endgame part of the show, which I'm sure you enjoyed. Even if all of the accompanying plot points were, like, maybe not the strongest, but at least watching the super weapons was probably fun, right? So in space, the Jewel team finds a hollowed out space colony. So it's like a picture like an O'Neill colony with no end caps. And it turns out this is actually a relay reflector station for Djibril's new weapon called Requiem. How would you describe Requiem, Isaac? Because it's probably one of the more powerful super weapons we've seen in Gundam.
Yeah, so Requiem is pretty cool. I'd say, well, Nibelung was cool too at Heaven's Base, but that kind of only shot like in a funnel into the sky. But Requiem fires a beam from the moon, and this is a massive beam. Like, this is probably the biggest beam weapon we've seen in Gundam Seed, or to Gundam Seed Destiny. And it fires at these colony segments, so they're sort of cylindrical chunks. When the beam hits these chunks, it's able to curve, so you can kind of bounce through multiple, cylinder fragments, and that allows it to hit a target. And of course, what's Logos going to target? The plants. And boy, Requiem lives up to its name because it kills a lot of coordinators. What's puzzling to me, like, I guess if I was on Logos, I would have been yelling at Djibril. I'd say, we don't even need to go to war yet. We just need like 3 weeks until Requiem's online.
Yeah, just wait.
Right? He just needed to wait.
No one knew about it.
Yeah, what are you doing, like, with nuclear weapons? Like, we'll be done with this weapon within a month, and then we don't even need to announce any type of war. We can just turn it on and fire. Like, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills at the Logos meetings.
I think you're absolutely right. And in that same vein, did you find it entertaining when the ZAF people were complaining, like, why didn't we see this hollowed out colony before? But then it turned out that there were, I don't know, 10 other relay stations, right, Isaac? So, like, not only should Logos just have waited, but on the other hand, isn't ZAF, like, inept at their space patrol, like finding these hollowed out colony relay stations? There was a lot of them floating up there. Yeah,
but that goes even further than Requiem, because, like, ZAF clearly didn't know what members of their military were doing when they dropped the ruins of Junia 7. ZAF is almost too small of a population to really run well, as we saw last season with Patrick Zala's coup and then Sequel Klein dying, and their whole government kind of imploding and getting replaced now by Durandal.
Speaking of Junia 7, it just occurred to me, is Junia 7 the Operation Stardust of the Cosmic Era?
If it is, it kind of went better.
Delage, you should have chopped up your colony before you dropped it.
Yeah, because, like, I'd say they're comparable. Yeah, I definitely say they're comparable. Well, technically, I guess it might be the Operation British, right? Because it's the first time in Seed where something fell to Earth.
Yeah, I was going at it from the perspective of like the Zaft remnant holding on to the old ideology.
Yeah, pretty much. That's a good point. Yeah, except Zala never would like articulate his ideology other than kill the naturals.
You can fit that on a bumper sticker. You need it to be short.
I don't know if those Zala fans, if they found another asteroid, they probably could have kept doing drops, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it seemed fairly easy for them.
They're really good at doing a drop very quickly.
So Djibril fires this thing, and like you said, he aimed it at the Capitol, but he kind of missed. The Jewel team had thrown off that first relay station, and instead it took out like what appeared to me, Isaac, to be like civilian colonies, and it seems anywhere from like 3 to 10 other planets were taken out, either in the direct hit or the mass chaos that occurred afterwards.
That's another thing. Like, I would be yelling at Djibril, like, what do you mean we missed? It looks like it went flawless because we hit like 7 of them. Like,
you were only aiming at 1 and you took out 7.
We took out like a third of their country. Like, I think we're doing pretty great. Like, were you aiming at 1? We should miss more often.
Why didn't you just aim at all of them?
Yeah, like, can't we wait to like line them up or something? This weapon works great. We should have built 2.
So Lacus then takes this opportunity to explain the Destiny plan because we very clearly needed some character to stop and explain this thing to us because we didn't know what it was, and we still don't really know what it is. But her point of her speech, Isaac, is that we can't let this happen. So then everyone's like, oh, well, now there's a new super weapon. Let's all go destroy Requiem. That's kind of the theme of this show. Super weapon crops up, everyone decides it's bad, and everyone goes and attacks it. So Requiem is on the moon. Our Zaft pilots, Shin, Rey, and Luna, they get to the moon. And spoilers, Isaac, they destroy the base it's at called Daedalus. Rey takes out your man here. Rey kills Djibril with the Dragoons in a pretty good fashion. Djibril is kind of like incinerated. What did you think about his death? It kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, I was trying to think, there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Like, you're getting in that ship, but this is where you ran to from Earth. Like, I don't think there's... Are you going to flee back to Earth? Where?
Yeah, that's fair. You can only escape so many times, right?
It is what it is, but at the same time, it was a pretty cool death. You know, he get the whole kind of dissolve thing that they do sometimes, and then like his face like fades into white.
Yeah. So Zaft destroys the Daedalus base. They destroy, and they take control. Well, I guess they don't destroy it. I guess they take control of Requiem, right, Isaac?
Yeah, apparently it wasn't damaged at all when they took it because they're able to get it up and running almost immediately.
Yes. Well, actually, before that happens, we get a very we get a shore leave episode, Isaac, just to kill off Mir Campbell, which I thought was a real momentum killer. Not that the plot is the greatest, but like if we're in super weapon mode here, and then all of a sudden the characters take a break on the moon. Basically, Mir's handlers find out that their Archangel crew is on the moon, and they set up this trap. But things happen, and Mir ends up taking the bullet meant for Lacus, and she dies, and blah blah blah. Which is weird because like if they knew that the Archangel crew was there, Isaac, shouldn't they try to take out like Kira and Athrun as the pilots of this Freedom and the Justice, who are like way bigger of a problem?
Probably, but at the same time, like fake Lacus' handlers there, so I assume she was running the show in the field. Her knowledge is maybe limited a bit. She's really focused on taking out the real Lacus. So yeah, that's kind of why I chalked up the whole shootout too. Technically, this was like our only good shootout in the series.
It was a pretty big shootout. Yeah, Athrun was really getting it done.
Yeah. They no matter how many goons they threw, they really took them all out. And then, of course, who goes down? Mir. She's also going to die, of course.
Yeah, can't have 2 Lacuses.
No.
After this, Durandal announces his Destiny plan to the world. Because again, we need yet another explanation of the Destiny plan because we still really don't know what it is. And he's still pretty vague on the enforcement provisions, as we've discussed. Rey, at this point, Isaac starts to go a little crazy. He starts to be a little bit more like Rao. He needs to take his crazy pills. And he explains to Shin that he has short telomeres and he's not going to live much longer. And like you said, Isaac, Requiem's still working. Durandal fires Requiem at the Atlantic Federation base on the moon, which I believe they called Arazeku. We never actually saw too much of that, but apparently that's where the Atlantic Federation president was hiding. Was he kind of like the last person in Logos they didn't have?
I guess so, but like,
yeah,
it didn't really. Yeah, that had to be it.
Was that just an excuse to fire Requiem? I think it was.
I mean, technically he wasn't in Logos, it seemed, right? Like he was under their influence, but not quite a member.
Yeah, I don't know that he was a member, but they kept saying, "Oh, he wants to talk to you, Durandal. What do you want to do?" And then so he just,
All right.
let's shoot him. Let's shoot him with my space gun that curves.
Yeah. I want to hear him boil.
The moon's really getting beat up here, Isaac. So, of course, everyone's like, all right, let's go take out Requiem. So the Archangel and the Eternal, they take out the Requiem relay station with the meteors. We get the meteors again, Isaac, which I believe are just the same meteors from the first show. Are they different? I think they're the same, right?
Yeah, they're the same ones. They've always been there because the ship's always there. The ship's still there.
Yeah. So the meteors show up again because everyone likes meteors, and then we basically do the same thing that we did in the first show, which is going to continue a theme for the last few episodes, Isaac. We're going to do pretty much the same thing we did in the first show, but we're going to do it again with the same characters, just because. And so we get the meteors, we do the same thing. Mu then does the same thing they did in the first show, Isaac. So the Minerva and the Archangel are engaged in combat. Minerva fires a Tannhauser at the Archangel, which is a little bit doomed, and Ramius is like, oh, if I move, it's going to hit the Eternal, so we'll just take it. But Mu gets there, and he takes the shot with his body again, but this time everything's hunky-dory because he has the Akatsuki, and he's fine. He just shrugs it off, and he shoots the Tannhauser and blows it up. And then, Isaac, we get into the duels, the end duels, Kira and Rey duel. So Kira fights in the Freedom 2.0, he fights the Providence 2.0. Athrun and Shin duel. And then Durandal fires, Neogenesis from his new base, Messiah, which is this sort of junk-looking asteroid thing with a rod through it.
Yeah, it's ugly. They put Genesis into an asteroid and then put a ring around it, but
yeah.
It's mobile and it doesn't look cool.
Genesis also felt underwhelming after Requiem.
Yeah, absolutely. It was pretty much just an excuse for them to show that they were equally evil because they were going to use the remnants of Requiem to curve lasers.
Right. Yes. And, spoilers, Kira beats Rey.
Shocking.
much the same that he beat, Rao. Very similar battle.
Almost as if they're clones.
Although I would say that Rao put up a much better fight than Rey.
Oh, yeah. Rao was they got to the point where they're fighting inside Genesis. It was neck and neck for a while.
Athrun beats both Luna and Shin. So Shin finally gets his comeuppance. Athrun basically, beats him down and is like, what are you doing? Is this how you really wanted to wield your power? Stop lying to yourself about what Durandal's doing. And he cuts off both of Destiny's arms and a leg, and basically just Destiny falls to the moon, defeated. Then the Archangel and Athrun, they beat the Minerva. The Archangel shoots it, and Athrun runs his little Infinite Justice drone thing through the Minerva's engines, grounding the Minerva on the moon. This was a very weird part in the show, Isaac, in the sense that our entire original cast, the Destiny cast, I should say, has been defeated, right? Shin's defeated, Luna's defeated, Rey's defeated, the Minerva's down.
Yeah.
It's weird, isn't it? I mean, I guess they became the antagonists, sort of. But, what did you feel at this point? It was weird. It was kind of like a hollow feeling, right?
Yeah, at this point, I'm just watching events unfold because it feels like such a bizarre finale. Durandal has a throne room out of nowhere. And of course, all the old characters from the last series come back and just crush everybody new that we've met for no reason almost. Once again, it's up to them to save the world. And our new cast are just sort of helpless idiots.
Yeah, they were shoved aside. Shin did fairly well, but at the same time, he was just kind of crushed in the last battle. It wasn't even that close of a fight.
Right, yeah.
Athrun walked away with very little damage.
Shocking, but it's Athrun.
And then, Isaac, we get our Abawaku moment where everyone decides that they need to go into Messiah where Durandal is. And Isaac, the Messiah at this point is a wreck, right? His little throne room, or whatever you want to call it, is pretty busted up. But this dude is still in the chair. Why was he still in the chair? Why was he not leaving?
Yeah, not everybody left. There was an explosion, right? And almost everybody on the bridge died except him.
Yeah, but he's still in the chair just so he can do the dramatic turnaround.
Probably.
And be like, I am still here. So he turns around in the chair, and then everyone's there. Kira's there. I think Athrun's there too in the special edition. Rey's there. Talia's there. She gets out of the Minerva. She tells everyone in the Minerva to leave, and she's going to go in and check on Durandal. So everybody is in Messiah, looking at Durandal. Everybody's aiming at everyone. So we got a classic Quentin Tarantino Mexican standoff here. Durandal's like, what would you do if I died today? And Kira'd be like, I'm ready for it. And that triggers this change in Rey, who, now all of a sudden he wants it tomorrow, I guess because he's not really going to have it tomorrow because he's going to die. And he, instead of shooting Kira, he shoots Durandal. And then, Isaac, we get probably the number one cardinal sin of the show. Talia decides to stay behind and die with Durandal and Rey. She says, I'm going to stay here and deliver him myself. And Kira, could you please have Ramius go visit my son for me one day? I would like that. As a parent, this makes me physically angry. No parent would ever willingly die knowing that their kid is out there and needing it. She doesn't have like a grown son, Isaac. This kid is like, I don't know, 6 tops, right, in that photo?
Yeah, and would you want the enemy captain that you've known for like 5 days
right.
to meet, that you've spoken to like maybe 8 times to like meet?
Yeah, she had a few cordial conversations with this woman.
Yeah.
What's Ramius going to visit her like once going to do? She didn't say like go raise my kid, but even then she wouldn't even tell her that. You have an ability to walk away and go be with your kid. This makes 0 sense and I hate it. It's terrible.
Yeah, it not only her wanting to stay behind, because like we only saw her with Durandal like once, intimately.
Yeah,
it'd be a thing if they were kind of like constantly together or something, or had like this long-standing relationship. But it almost seemed like it was very distant at a certain way, right? But also Rey stayed behind, even though he has short telomeres. He could have had his own redemption, right, where he leaves and it's like, no matter how short my time is, I'm gonna live it to the best,
right.
Something like that. That would have been much more life affirming instead of, again, in Gundam Seed, whether you're Orb or apparently now Zaft, everybody likes to sacrifice themselves and go down with the ship.
Yeah, it's a bit silly. I also was cracking up when Durandal asked who he was like, oh, did Kira shoot me or something? And Talia goes, no, Rey actually shot you. And like, what must have went through his mind?
I mean, he must have been like, oh my God, what happened? You were so on my team.
Oh man. So after that, everyone leaves, besides those 3. They leave Messiah, and everything ends up hunky-dory. Lacus becomes chairman of Zaft. Athrun joins Orb. The creators of the show, apparently, they have said that Athrun and Kigali resume their relationship, which I did not really get that from the ending. Would you have thought that? I wouldn't have.
No, but I buy it at the same time, right? Just because, why wouldn't they? They had the whole thing going last series, and this series is very much about no matter what changes they tried doing, the original cast is just going to do whatever the hell they want anyway.
Right, yeah, that's fair. And then Kira surprisingly joins Zaft with, I assume to be with Lacus. He's wearing one of the white uniforms like we saw Rao wear in the original. That was a little strange, but I guess that sort of makes sense. So he's now a big important figure in the Zaft military. And Shin joins the Archangel crew after they all meet at the memorial for the people who died at the Battle of Orb. We visited that site once earlier in the show, and Shin finally meets Kira. Athrun introduces him, and Kira goes, Shin, you should team up with us, and he says okay. And so that's the show. Shin ends up joining the good guys at the very end, and everyone sort of lives happily ever after, I guess. Wow, Isaac. Wow.
It was a mediocre ending for a mediocre series. That's how I'd wrap it up.
I already said sins number 1 and 2 for me are Talia voluntarily dying despite her son living, and then the character assassination of Luna and the not playing the card of knowledge. I think the other big problem with the show is, as you already said, the old cast taking over the new cast. But I think what's specifically wrong with that is that when that happened, Isaac, that happened what? Roughly when we left off in the first review. So the first half of the show, that's when it ended on. But the problem with that is now you telegraphed the ending of the show 20 episodes early, and that's never something you want to do. I feel like at both episode 30 and episode 40, I didn't know how we were going to get another 20 or 10 episodes out of this show. It created a bunch of finales. Heaven's Base could have been a finale. Requiem could have been a finale. The second Requiem could have been a finale. Messiah could have been the other finale, which it was. So that was, in my mind, the 4th finale.
Yeah.
This was like Lord of the Rings here, Isaac.
Yeah, exactly, right? Return of the King, where it just constantly ends. There's a super weapon after a super weapon after a super weapon after a fight. The writing on this seems like it changed hands a lot, and it's really too bad because we had some interesting super weapons, some interesting characters we could have used, designs for mobile suits, and we ended up in sort of a mess. It was a hot mess, a pileup of ideas and what ifs, and yeah, Gundam Seed Destiny I do not recommend as a first watch at all. And if you enjoyed Gundam Seed, you probably don't watch Gundam Seed Destiny because it's going to go downhill from there.
Yeah, it's definitely not on my like top 5 lists of shows or anything like that. I mean, I guess if you're a big fan of the Cosmic Era, then maybe you enjoy it. I would love to hear from listeners who really love the show. I think we mentioned this before, but I think Gundam Seed, that's a lot of people's Gundam, right, Isaac? I mean, there's certain people, that's the Gundam they grew up with, and that's the one they like. So I think if you're one of those listeners, regardless of Isaac and I's opinion, clearly we didn't like the show too much, even though we thought it had a lot of potential. I think we would want to know, how do you square this show in your head? How does this reconcile to you? Because I feel like there's a lot of stuff going on here that doesn't make sense.
It very much feels like a lot of people know the original series, and fewer, not a minuscule amount, but less, have seen Zeta, right?
Yeah, that's true.
It's one thing to know the 1 Year War and be very familiar with it. It's another thing to kind of know the Grips conflict. Very much in the same way, a lot of people grew up with Seed, and Destiny is maybe a distant knowledge to them. They're vaguely familiar with it. They didn't watch it, or they only saw some of it. But yeah, I'd put it in that type of comparison.
A few more comments before we move to the mecha, Isaac. I thought Shin's character really suffered in the back half because he sort of ended up not growing until the last episode. And that's kind of a cop-out, right? He just decided like, oh, okay, sure, I'll join you, Kira. I feel like he was on a good path, and that path could have been when Stella died.
Yeah.
That's when his character should have changed. That was his chance to realize that he gave it his best shot, but the result of Stella dying was still the correct result because she was going crazy and killing like thousands of people. But because the plot needed him to be the antagonist now, he kept being the same person the rest of the show. I don't know. That's my take. I feel like there was an opportunity there to have him be a little different. And maybe that was the original plan, something along those lines. And then when he became the bad guy, you can't do that anymore, right?
Yeah, it was another missed opportunity. It didn't make sense. That should have been him joining, the Archangel, right? Him joining and realizing the error of his ways. But no, it didn't really happen. He just, Ray's hold on him was so strong.
Yeah, I think Atherton even comments like, sometimes Ray, everything Ray says is so logical at the time, but it's hard to argue with him.
Shin, you just don't think for yourself. You're just a robot in a uniform.
We never actually got confirmation. Do you think that Durandal sent the assassins after Lacus? I assume yes, but it was never confirmed.
Without question, no one else would gain from it. Djibril wouldn't do it because, I mean, he would kill her if he knew about her, but like it's almost beneath his notice. He's busy trying to take out all coordinators, not one.
Well, but he didn't even know about her. Do you remember that part when during the competing like broadcast where he was like, "Oh, look, a fake Lacus. This is interesting."
Yeah, and then like the real Lacus kind of chews him out in like one sentence, and he's like, But yeah, there's only one person that could have been behind it, and it's clearly Durandal.
Okay, because I've seen some Durandal supporters online being like, it was never confirmed that he sent the assassins. But like, who else is going to do it, guys?
Those are Zafties. Those are Zaft heads. You can't listen to them, Brian. They have Durandal body pillows.
You know what occurred to me, Isaac? Like, we don't really know too much about where the Strike Freedom and the Infinite Justice came from. Like, were they just made in that asteroid that Lacus was hiding in? Like, who's the builder? Like, who's the engineer? Like, that guy is the best.
I don't know. These things just appear when they needed for the plot. Like, the will of the pilots summons a Gundam when you need it at a certain point.
Yeah, maybe this is covered in like supplemental material. So listeners, is there like a Cosmic Era Anaheim out there that's making all this stuff and that's just not in the show? Because clearly, I mean, they weren't made in Orb, right? So
yeah, ironically, Logos is in control of like almost all weapons manufacturing, right? Except for the plants. So they should be very careful about who's getting Gundam.
Yeah,
but apparently they're not, because these things appear wherever someone needs them.
Like, here it is, and it's fully finished.
It's like, yeah, I think we'll put one over there, just in case some Orb pilot needs it. Wait, not that pilot.
Oh no, what have you done? So another question, Isaac, is what is the point of Mu in this show? Is it just to give Ramius a happy ending? And I don't mean that as like in like a pun intended way. But like, you don't have to have Mu in this show other than to make Ramius happy.
Yeah, his role was so minimal, right? Like when he comes back and decides to be a pilot, it's almost like he flipped a switch and said, well, I guess I'll help you guys. It didn't contribute a ton other than adding another pilot to a very overpowered squad.
Right. And in my opinion, what would have been a good use of Mu is he could have come back, and instead of having Rey versus Kira, we could have had Mu versus Rey, and then Mu could have defeated Rey, or at least taken Rey in, and like you said, Rey could have had his little redemption arc, where maybe Mu finds a way to, help Rey live on or something with the help of Mu's genes, right? Because Rey is technically a clone of Mu's father.
That's pretty perfect. Like, it's Rey gets the big brother he always wanted.
Yeah.
Who doesn't judge him by his short telomere.
I don't know what else Mu is really doing in this show other than being back for fan service and because people liked him so much they didn't want him to die.
That's the only reason. But it would have been great, like a Mu scene, right, where like he puts his arm around Rey and he's like, "Come on, guy, we got a lot of life to live up."
Let's do the mecha, Isaac, and then I have one big question for you, unless you have anything else.
I hope it's a Blue Cosmos, or I love those questions.
So maybe, sort of.
I'm all for it. I'm the last member of Logo. They didn't catch me.
Oh, so we already talked about the Legend, so we're not going to do that again. What about the Destiny, Isaac? What did you think of the Destiny?
It was okay. Like any mobile suit in this series, it's half uninspired and like not really my favorite, but it was decent, I'd say. I guess I kind of like the shoulder pads. It was a cool design for the shoulder pads.
Yeah.
Not a ton of the Zeta Gundam in it, I'd say, but overall a sufficient leading Gundam.
I think the way I thought about it, Isaac, was they tried to give it all the cool gimmicks from the different Gundams throughout the years, right? It had the Wings of Light from the Victory 2. It had the God Finger, the Burning Finger from God Gundam. It had, the big sword from Impulse. But it doesn't have, like, the charisma of any of them. It feels very artificial.
Yeah, you could almost say that about the whole series feeling artificial because of how much they did bring back characters we thought were kind of done to overshadow the new characters, and we get an ending by the numbers with the super weapon going down and then peace being established, which is really what happened at the last series. So nothing really moved forward. We had an artificial replay of the war again, when what we should have done is, much like Zeta, have the whole setting kind of evolve. We should have had like a new force in the Earth Alliance kind of causing problems, or Ern Zaft or something like that, right? But we didn't get that. So it's just as artificial. The design was artificial just as much as the setting. and what could be more artificial than Control-C from the 1 Year War, bringing over Zaku's and Doms and Guffs and
I could just see you like throwing your laptop out the window when the Doms showed up.
Pretty much. And then running down because it's my only laptop.
Like, oh, damn it. How about the Strike Freedom and the Infinite Justice?
They were serviceable, I think. Well, the Strike Freedom was a little more unique. The wings, mainly. I wouldn't say Death Scythe hell level wings, but kind of a cool little cape thing going on there.
I like the Strike Freedom. I think it's a good, like, main character Gundam. Again, I think I said this in when we reviewed the first show. I don't think the Freedom Gundam looks very good if you just look at the line art. But if you look at it in all the poses where the wings are all splayed out, like, it's pretty cool looking. Like, I definitely understand why people like it. I don't necessarily like how it's handled in the show. Like, it's just that, Kira presses the win button, he just targets everything, and like you hit go and it just shoots everything. But in terms of looks, like, I totally get it. Like, I think it's a pretty good looking Gundam when you pose it correctly. The Infinite Justice, if someone asked me to tell you the difference between the Justice and the Infinite Justice, I wouldn't be able to tell you what the difference is. I mean, it's a decent looking suit. I don't like the magenta. I wish it was red.
Yeah. I'm not a fan for it because I've said this before with Atherin's mobile suits, I think, but it's the wrong red. Like, they wanted to do kind of the Char callback, clearly, but it's, I don't know what they call this, a dull crimson. It's not a good color for a mobile suit.
Yeah, it's kind of like a halfway color.
It's always used for Atherin, and like it just has a dullness to it. Like, they mix gray into the color red. It's not very eye catching.
Yeah, so, I think that's why I like the Savior. It has such a better color.
Yeah, and this is just not that. So I know they have lead roles in the story, but I'm not a fan of it. And even though the Savior had its kind of bizarre unicorn head, it was still
it did have a weird head.
Still bright red, and that earned points automatically.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, listeners, I would love to hear your thoughts about, mecha in the show. Isaac, if you had to rattle off your top 3, top 5 designs from this show, what would they be?
Oh, well, the Destroy.
Okay.
And then
and then 3 blank spaces.
Requiem and Nibelung.
Those are not mobile suits, sir.
But they're designed. I don't even want to put the DOMs up there because it's not something that's Gundam Seed Destiny. A Windom? A nuclear Windom?
Wow. Has to be a nuclear one, too.
Yeah, I don't do regular Windoms. Yeah, that's my fleet. They're just only nuclear. So what? I got to destroy a Windom. Oh boy. After that,
pretty sparse on the Isaacs.
Yeah, I don't care for this series that much at all, and I hope the viewers, the listeners, back me up on this too.
I mean, you don't have to have 3. If you only got 2, then it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
All right, if I had to do mine, I think I would put the Savior at the top, probably followed by the Destroy, since it's pretty unique.
Yeah, right.
And then the Akatsuki, and then the Strike Freedom. If I had to go into 4 and a 5, I don't know, maybe
maybe Chaos. I'd probably add Chaos, but it's such a distant third.
I mean, the Legend, I guess, relatively. I agree the Providence is better, but if I was just choosing within the show, the Legend would be pretty decent. Yeah. No Providence, okay. But if I'm working with what I got here, Isaac.
Okay, that makes sense.
I did like it when Atherin put Shin in his place at the very end, and then he reholstered all of his beam sabers as if to say I'm done here, and then he just flew away. So maybe I'll give it to the Infinite Justice just for that. But
Shin.
I also liked his strategy to defeat the Minerva, and I think he also did it to either take out Requiem or one of those weapons where he just sent his little flyer thing into it. He's like, well, I'll just fly it through. That'll do enough damage. It's very direct.
Yeah, that works too.
All right, Isaac, my last question for you. So the reason why we're doing this review is that we want to get caught up before the new Seed movie comes out. Now, having just gone through Seed Destiny, and we did Seed last year, what are your thoughts about the sequel? Do you feel like there's any obvious loose threads that haven't been wrapped up that we should be expecting? And then maybe what do you think will happen versus what do you think should happen to make it interesting?
I don't think there's any loose threads because the main thread was finally removed this time. Say what you will about Blue Cosmos in the last series, but they were kind of still out there when it ended. Azrael was just one element of it. Here it looks like Logos, which is behind Blue Cosmos, is finally gone. So I'm kind of curious what the plot will be and what the threat will be. Is it going to be a situation of, well, it doesn't really matter who's behind the Earth Alliance. They're just not going to get along with the plants at all. Or is it going to be something kind of more abstract where they address the coordinators being sterile? But which I think they should, because it sounded like such a critical, important thing, and they kind of glossed over it.
Didn't come up once this series.
No, but it sounds like it's something that the ZAF government should be thinking about constantly. Since you can't really reproduce, that was another thing. Blue Cosmos technically just needs to wait them out.
That's true.
There's only going to be a handful of elderly people in the plants. But I digress. Anyways, no, I'm not that excited for the movie. Sure, I'm going to see it, but this is a setting I don't really want to return to. The cosmic era isn't filled with a ton of enjoyment for me, and my expectations are low, and my interest is equally low.
Oh, man. Oh, that's not what Sunrise wants to hear, Isaac.
Brian, here at Sunset, we like to give accuracy, and that's my accurate feelings. What are your thoughts, then?
I couldn't think of any logical, loose threads. I thought maybe when they mentioned that Arazeku base where the Atlantic Federation president was hiding, I was like, oh, maybe we'll go there. But then they, hit it with the Requiem cannon. I was like, oh, that's out. So, no, I don't think there's any obvious loose ends. So I was thinking perhaps maybe the existing research for the Destiny plan is misused, or it's somehow going to be used for a nefarious purpose, perhaps maybe related to the sterile problem.
It's used to give people information on their ancestry. And only a Gundam can stop that.
My only thought there is that doesn't sound like a sexy log line. right?
No.
In terms of what I think will happen, like we've had a Rao or like an Aldaflaga clone in every thing, so I'm sure that there's going to be a third, and I'm sure we'll just end up with Kira fighting another clone.
Kira's going to be taking off a lot of heads and arms on mobile suits, not people.
What do I think should happen, though, Isaac? I think the way to get me interested in this movie is to either make Kira or Lacoose evil somehow.
Are you talking about like they go insane or like they get replaced by like a new one?
I don't know. I'm not. There's various ways to do it, right? You could assassinate Lacoose, and that could just send Kira into a downward spiral. Or maybe they could clone Kira, and there could be an evil Kira.
His name would be Arik, which is Kira backward.
Dun dun dun.
And he flies the Injustice Gundam.
There you go, the Injustice. Or what's the opposite of freedom? Like
the Oppression Gundam.
Bondage.
Oh.
That could go a weird way, but I don't know. I think there just needs to be a shakeup at the top of like what can challenge Kira at this point, Isaac.
If they introduce a new character, we know they're going to get killed. Like, I don't know. They almost need to have like Athrun and Kira fight again.
Again, yeah. Athrun's counterattack.
Kira gets framed for something, and like the whole cast of characters turn against him.
Okay, a frame, yeah, that could be a way to do it.
Gundam Destiny Detective, Gundam Seed Detective, or something.
I also think it's odd that like this series did not end like a normal Gundam series when you trash all your stuff, right? The Freedom, the Justice, and the Archangel, they're all still intact.
They're invincible. They will function forever.
So, like, should we expect them to just carry forward, or should we expect new versions? Or
they'll come back again. We'll get new characters. There'll be a plot, some sinister new organization like Red Cosmos or something, and then the old characters will come and save the day, and the new characters will be mediocre, and the world will be at peace. I just wrote it for you. That's exactly what's going to happen. Mark my words, listeners.
All right, Red Cosmos it is. Yeah, listeners, I would love to hear your ideas for where the sequel film is going to go. I mean, I believe that
it's going to go in circles. That's where it's going to go. We're going to go back to where we started, just like the Seed Destiny.
Oh, man. I'm curious where you think it's going to go. Do you feel like there's any hanging plot threads that we did not address? I mean, I feel like they wrapped it up. It's pretty tidy. Everyone lived happily ever after. Any ideas on length of time that will pass in the new one? I think, Isaac, you had said before that no one wants to see them be real old. So do you think it's less than 5 years from Seed
Absolutely.
Destiny? Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
I think that's probably true, given that the Freedom, the Justice, and the Archangel are still around. They'll still try to use those, so they can't be too out of date.
The Cosmic Era, like, nothing happens too far away from each other.
There were several points in this show where I think Athrun may have said it once, or maybe it was Kira and Kigali said it another time. So they said something like, how is this all happening again 2 years later? And my response, I wrote down every time, we're all asking that same question.
Yeah, we just had a war to solve this, and like we're fighting again. Like, how do we have the troops and the material? Ugh.
I lied, Isaac. The hanging plot thread that needs to be addressed and what should happen in the movie is that the space whales should come back and there should be a space whale invasion.
Oh, that's pretty brilliant, Brian, because what would drive naturals and coordinators together? An alien invasion.
And the space whales would be led by John Glenn. Or whatever they called him in this George Glenn.
George Glenn.
Well, yeah, but they would just clone him. It'd be a clone of George Glenn. Or,
they put his brain into a whale body. There you go.
Oh my god!
And he's out for revenge.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. If you see George Glenn show up in that space whale, it was our idea.
Yeah. Oh man. Well. Would you recommend people see Gundam Seed Destiny, Brian? And if so, under what context? Because I can't recommend it in any context.
I mean, I would recommend Gundam Seed Destiny if you're a fan of the original Gundam Seed and you want to watch the new Seed film when it comes out, because it will be a sequel to Seed Destiny. Seed Destiny is here to stay. It's not going away. If you didn't like the original Seed, there's absolutely no reason for you to watch Seed Destiny. I would say that. So definitely first watch Seed if you're on the fence, and then make your decision. Do you want to keep going? If you do, Seed Destiny is there for you. And if I had to give it a rating, Isaac, my Haro rating, I think I'd rate it probably like a 6 out of 10. It's pretty low. It's probably one of the lower ratings I've ever given.
Ooh.
The animation's good. The music is great. We didn't talk about the music. That's definitely a positive for the show. But, plot-wise, it just wasn't my thing. I thought there's a lot of nonsensical stuff happening. I'm just not sure it's that enjoyable of an experience. And you know what makes it worse for me, Isaac, is that it's a long show, right? If it was 25 episodes, it would hurt less. But it loses the audience's trust multiple times. They assassinated one of the characters in order to move the plot forward in a nonsensical direction, being Lunamaria, and they did not play the biggest intrigue card, which was the fake Lacus. And Talia dying and voluntarily staying with her son makes zero sense to me, and I hate it. And Destiny Plan was not very impressive. Old cast got the spotlight over the new cast, to their detriment. So just a whole lot of things I didn't really enjoy in the back half. Made it a big slog, Isaac. Even though there was lots of flashy stuff happening, I felt like it was just manufactured flashy stuff. We were just throwing it all together. We were in that super weapon gauntlet, just going from one to the next without a whole lot of logic. So 6 out of 10 is where I'm at. Unfortunately, I apologize, Seed Destiny listeners.
I'll go lower than that. I'll give this 2 out of 5 Haros because I think if you enjoyed Gundam Seed, just end it there. That's like the perfect ending. Peace happens at the end of that series. Going through this all again is kind of a mess, and I can't recommend this also as a first watch because you need so much backstory in Gundam Seed to enjoy it. So there's not a lot of ways I'd recommend this. And revisiting it, I understand they have characters established and all that, but man, this movie's going to have to do a lot to kind of redeem the series and the Cosmic Era timeline. So yeah, it's a couple of thumbs down for me. I don't plan on rewatching this ever again.
So yeah, listeners, let us know your thoughts on Seed Destiny, the ups, the downs. What did you enjoy? What didn't you enjoy? Are we way off base here? Let us know.
Comment below what you think about this series because, man, I want to wrap my head around the reasons why someone would like this series. It's really not that great. Yeah, there's a lot missing. It's not something that I can see myself rewatching, and it doesn't have a lot of good moments. It's very much, I wouldn't say a cash grab, but they revisited the Cosmic Era for God knows why, because they already had established characters in the setting. But yeah, it's not something I'm all for. And if you're for it, tell me why. Like, make us understand why this is so high ranked for you.
Yeah, frustrating might be a good word for this show.
There you go.
All right. Well, on that note, Isaac, take us away.
All right, listeners, before you go to sleep tonight, stand next to your bed, get on your knees, put your hands together, look up at the ceiling, and hail Blue Cosmos for the preservation of our blue and pure world.
Good night, everybody. Although, listeners, by the way, I do think that the king of the bounces, maybe not the bounces, but the king of the size is actually Talia.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know which version you watch, Isaac, but in the special edition, I guess I assume the uncut edition, there is like a shower scene with her, and she's quite endowed. So
I bet she is.
Even more than Mir. So
wow. Well, you heard it here, folks. Brian's boob analysis.